I'm Mason Mount. You're listening to the London is Blue podcast.
Kind of interesting, though, Dan, is that, as you mentioned, our center back pairing is going to be an interesting situation. Rumors Tomori is about to head out on loan, per Simon Johnson, so a very reliable source. And then Zouma has now come out and kind of verbally committed, pushing back a lot of the rumors that, maybe he wants to go back to Everton. Is Everton going to make a bid? Yada, yada. We've got a mock depth chart here for center back, 1 through 4. Christensen. I mean, you're not putting Rüdiger in there? Christensen, Rüdiger, Luiz.
I think I wouldn't put Rüdiger in there right now. I mean, you can, just because obviously he's injured. So
we'll go with the 4 from preseason then.
Yeah.
Right? All right. Okay. So Tomori, Christensen, Luiz, and Zouma. What do you think, I guess, would be your depth chart? And feel free to add commentary before that, even about the center back pairing in general, especially as we head towards Man United. I mean, even if, Rüdiger would be healthy, that's not going to be the first game he plays.
No, not at all. And I think I actually think Christensen had a pretty bright game. He made some pretty good decisions. And again, he's not going to burn somebody down with pace, but he usually will have a good idea about when he needs to kick the ball to play, when he can kind of make a little bit more of a touch to throw someone off. So I think there's a lot of cerebral elements to his game that get missed occasionally, but I think he looked really good, especially next to David, who was just, again, is continuing, I think, to defy expectations, and I think he will be the number one, I think the one consistent center back heading into the start of the season for a couple different reasons. He is a completely change of play kind of player where he's going to be able to immediately start an attack from one ball in a way that none of the other defenders have the ability to do so. And then I think Zouma has to be number 2. I mean, when you look at trying to partner up David Luiz with someone who is going to give us something a little bit different, give us a little bit more of the aerial strength, give us a little bit more of the pace that, maybe Luiz actually does have, and, someone who isn't afraid to kind of challenge an attacker. I mean, we think about some of the matches where he pocketed Kane, where he pocketed Aguero. He is capable of playing at the top level of the Premier League, and I think that is the 1 and the 2. I think Christensen just shades Tomori for me. Tomori ends up being number 4 there, but I think it has to be David, Zouma, Christensen, and then you have Tomori. And I think the real question, Nick, is where is Rüdiger going to slot in that depth chart heading into the season?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough. Like, Rüdiger has a lot of work to do now. And it's not because, you just automatically lose your place because of injury. Like, I don't believe in that. I think it's based on merit, and it's based on merit over a period of time. Insert meritocracy reference here. I think there's going to be a challenge for Rüdiger because I think he can only successfully play a role next to a ball distributor like David Luiz or Christensen. So I think a Zouma-Rüdiger partnership, while it would be strong, it would be fast, there would be good aerial ability, there isn't the ball playing out of the back potential there, at least from what I've seen, and I could be wrong, that I think Frank has shown that he wants to employ. And so if that's the case, that makes it even harder, right? Because then it really becomes a battle of of Luiz and Christensen and Zouma and Rüdiger for each kind of the strong and the skilled positions in the center back pairing, Mike. And I don't know how you feel about that, but I think there could be a lot of competition.
Yeah, I mean, undoubtedly, there's a ton of competition. I think it was an interesting game by Christensen. He pinged a good 40, 50-yard ball himself. That was a beautiful ball. So he has it. I think that if I was the center backs coach, I think you got to put Tomori on loan. Get him lots of game time and experience. allow Christensen to battle for a starting position. Because again, I think another year into this, if Christensen's not getting his opportunity, then I think he seriously has to think about leaving, going elsewhere to continue his career. I still think Kurt has everything that he needs to be a great center back. I sometimes feel like he plays disconnected. I think it's a little bit of what you see with Rüdiger at times, in which you have the physicality or the speed, and sometimes you're just not, your head's not in the space. I think we've, over the last few games, you've seen a lot of the back four is at times moving pretty well in unison, keeping a tight line. You're kind of seeing Dave tuck in a little bit more, I think, to keep the box a little bit more compact. But I would imagine that it's going to be Zouma and Luiz starting the season, but I think if anybody's going to be knocked off the starting spot, it's going to be Zouma. I think that the mental aspect of his game, I think he's going to play really well, and when he doesn't, I think that's going to be tough. So I think he's going to, unless he can just step up and run away with it, I think he's going to leave the opportunity for Rüdiger to come back in and claim his spot. And if anything, we have to hope that Zouma being there will push Rüdiger to just the next level of where he's at. Because again, let's not forget the strikers he has in his pocket as well, Salah and his great days. So everyone has room to work.
Well, I did want to jump in and say that I'm assuming we're only going to carry 4 center backs. One will go. We kind of said this, even Tweeds, like, if we sold Christensen, it wouldn't be the end of the world to me. I mean, I think today shows that he's a La Liga center back. And, no offense to him, but think how good he could be in that league where just brute physicality isn't a requirement.
Who doesn't want to be a La Liga center back to be, what I mean?
David Luiz also has that toughness in him as well. He's a freaking, warrior at times we've seen. So I think, kind of like you said, it'll come down to Rüdiger, Zouma, Christensen, and David Luiz. Like I said, Tomori has an edge because he spent a season with Frank, and so he knows what he's looking for. But I could see times where you play, where you could play Rüdiger and Zouma. I mean, there's times you get some nasty center forwards up there that, like an Ashley Barnes and nonsense, where they're not looking to play. Right, they're just looking to be dickheads.
You're looking to get a Zlatan elbow to the eye. Yeah,
put in the Bash Brothers,
and then they can sit there and just rough them up, or maybe even do that against a City where Aguero has no chance against 2, just beastly center backs, things like that. So what I like about it is we have options, we have strength, we have flexibility. And as long as those center backs can get the ball off their feet to the outside backs and the center mids, we'll be fine.
Both Rüdiger and Zouma, just for reference, both of them had over 100 accurate through balls, or long through balls this season. So both of them are capable of distributing. I think we're kind of shading them a little bit, they're not.
David
capable
Luiz
of doing
sets a crazy high bar.
Yeah. Yes,
that probably
David
skews
Luiz
our perspective.
Outperforms what we would expect of most defenders in all of football when it comes to distribution.
And midfielders.
Yeah, sure.
He was number 1 last year. He was number 1 in the league in through balls.
Yeah.
Number 1 in the whole league, David Luiz. It's crazy. To me, I think where it becomes a challenge, one, I love Tomori. I think, he's actually shown me a lot in preseason. I think he's calm on the ball. He can't grow that much more. So he's going to be an undersized center back for most of his career, but he's a great distributor. And, I think that's where Frank has a conundrum is I do not think, unless Zouma vastly improves, that he will ever match where Tomori is distribution-wise. Maybe that's not important. Maybe I'm a fool. Doesn't matter. I think when you look at the skills that are required to play the position, Zouma has almost all of them. And he will continue to be a dominant force in the air, and we desperately need that. I worry about, while I think the rough him up approach, Brandon, is hilarious to think about, frankly. I don't know if Frank would sacrifice playing out of the back for 2 guys who in short passing situations, not long balls, Dan, in short passing situations are not super comfortable, it looks like.
Zuma's 24. He turns 25 at the end of October.
Rüdiger's 25. So I mean, we have young center backs. I think this highlights the difference
26.
between like a Luiz and a Virgil van Dijk, right? It's just they're head and shoulders above other players because they have that full package.
Christensen's 23. David Luiz is old as shit, so you can go ahead and scrap him out. He's 32.
He's also riding a 2-year deal.
Yeah.
And yet, number one on the team sheet right now.
Yeah.
If I was Frank, David Luiz is my number one on the team sheet. I will be a Luiz till I die person this season. And I know it's not popular, and I know everyone is like written him off, and he makes too many mistakes and all this other stuff. I cannot emphasize to you guys listening how important David Luiz is to our season. And if we're looking for, and fairly enough, if we're looking for goals, if we're looking for assists outside of our creative players, he's a real candidate. Zouma could be a real candidate
because he had 2 goals last season.
Yep.
And he scored a beauty against Arsenal a couple of years ago that I loved.
Oh yeah, I was at San